weekend for Dustin Stoltzfus. He ended his 3-fight introductory UFC losing skid with a win over one Dwight Grant. Got that one done not that long ago, back in July. And this fight was actually announced July 22nd. Dustin Stoltzfus beat Dwight Grant July 16th. So a very, very quick turnaround for Stoltzfus, looking to replace Mahmoud Muradov in welcoming in Abusupiyan Magomedov to the UFC. And for Magomedov, his Keith Richards start me up, I never stop. Well, his never stop stopping UFC tenure, now that sounds like that Lonely Island movie that bombed. But for Magomedov, he was signed to the UFC back in August of 2021. And then everybody got excited, and he hasn't fought.
Where you been,
since. I mean, for Abusupiyan Magomedov, he was booked against Gerald Meerschaert in December. He was booked against Aliaskhab Hezria back in March of this year. He was booked against Muradov, and now he ends up taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. And UFC fans, MMA fans, Fight Night Picks fans, you might know Magomedov because he was a PFL finalist in their original season. He was put on a poster by Bilal Muhammad's teammate Lewis Taylor. In that fight, got knocked out by a left hook.
That's going to happen, though.
It's going to happen sometimes. But if you look at it for his season overall, he had 2 first-round finishes. He had a majority draw on the playoffs night, because you fight twice in one night. So majority draw in the 2-round fight. In the 3-round fight, he was able to get a unanimous decision win to move on. If you look at Abusupiyan Magomedov, he hasn't fought very often at all. His last fight was almost 2 years ago against Cezary Kezik over with KSW. And my God, did he look good in that fight. And he put Kezik to sleep with a front choke in that one. So pretty cool stuff from Magomedov. Before that, a big win over with EMC 3 years and 3 months ago. And you might go, hey, I remember that PFL season. Was that like 4 years ago? Yeah, it was. It was 2018. So for Magomedov, hasn't fought very often. You look at the last name and you look at that tweet that Aaron Bronstetter put out back in July that fighters with Magomedov in their name win like 84% of the time in the UFC. I like that. And I really like Abusupiyan Magomedov's style, because you might look at his last name and go, well, this guy's a grappler. He won his last fight by submission. This guy's a striker, and it's like watching a K1 artist at the purest form strike in MMA. He really is a lot of fun from either stance. Looks like a Thai fighter. I really do like Magomedov's style, and I think he's a fun fighter. It's just, he hasn't fought in forever, and he doesn't fight very often.
I don't know if he's Rico Verhoeven.
I have no idea what we're going to get out of him this weekend.
And, well, the good news is he's fighting Dustin Stoltzfus, so we don't really know what we're getting out of him this weekend either. And that's the weird thing about this fight. The best version of both guys are genuinely talented fighters. And with Abusupiyan Magomedov, I do really like his striking style. I think he can go to the legs against Dustin. I think he is going to be able to use his boxing very effectively against Stoltzfus, because the thing about Stoltzfus' style is that he's really just going to take what you give him, and then if he is more skilled in any one area, that's when he can sort of finish with his own submissions or with some of his movement. But the problem is, on the feet, he's almost like if Krzysztof Jotko didn't have the volume. Like, it's a lot of the movement, it's some of the single shots, but that's about it. And if Abusupiyan Magomedov just doesn't respect the striking power of Dustin Stoltzfus, I think he is just going to be able to walk forward and walk forward and walk forward. Because for Stoltzfus, up until he fought Dwight Grant, who's near the end of his career, who is like a welterweight moving up to middleweight.
Dwight Grant had just gotten knocked out by Sergey Kondashko like a couple months before that, and then took the fight against Stoltzfus up a weight class.
So that's the thing. Like, okay, Dustin, if you had lost that fight, it's definitely over. And this is not a good fight for him whatsoever, taking on a guy making his UFC debut. It really does feel like this is a fight to get Abusupiyan Magomedov kind of back in people's mind, because he is the more exciting fighter out of these two. I don't think I'd get much of a disagreement from anybody on that whatsoever. And I don't know how Stoltzfus is going to finish this fight if he's not able to immediately get on top and try to get some crazy submission, because Magomedov is a good enough grappler to where he is going to be able to just work out of some positions. He's not going to get trapped in a guillotine and immediately tap out of panic. He's going to try to defend and actually work through some of these positions. And on the feet, I think he's way more heavy-handed. He has really good kicks. Defensively, I do worry about him if you fought, like, I know Uriah Hall's retired, but that's just always my example to go to. A guy who is very patient, who is going to wait for you to open up with your game a little bit, and then really make you pay for it. But Dustin Stoltzfus isn't that guy at all. He can land some of those single shots. He just doesn't necessarily have the power behind it to really hurt a guy like Magomedov.
Like, if you look at it for Dustin Stoltzfus, he can open up his grappling with his striking, trying to land a lot of those power shots. You saw that on the way up. I mean, when he was fighting guys like Jonas Bilstein and knocking him out. If you do look at it for Stoltzfus, there is a lot of that there, but you see his grappling is really the complement of his game, and I threw it up there in the gym section, BJJ Globetrotters, because that's where he's training, just kind of getting ready for this fight that is so short notice over in Europe. But if you look at it for Stoltzfus, black belt in luta livre, you see that exactly in his style. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. That complements his red belt in Tang Soo Do, which is a Korean version of karate. But for Stoltzfus, it very much is, I'm going to strike until I don't have to strike anymore. Then I'm going to implement my ground game. You look at his last fight against Dwight Grant, he gets down on the volume numbers in the first round. Then he implements his game, round 2, round 3, wins the decision. For Magomedov, trains at a UFD gym, giant gym over in Dusseldorf in Germany. You recognize a lot of names out there. Obviously, one championship middleweight, Roberto Soldic, has trained out of that gym in the past. I don't know why the fuck he signed over there. They probably threw the fucking bag at him, and rightfully so. And his shirt this weekend was way too fucking tight.
I don't know why you're swearing so much over something that doesn't really matter.
Big Roberto Soldic fan. One championship. Chatri Sityodtong, just throwing money around. Everybody gets $50,000 bonuses, but when it comes to this
Good,
matchup,
at least someone's paying fighters.
Coming up this weekend, Magomedov, giant favorite, open to minus 220, minus 258 as it stands on the live line. For Stoltzfus, open plus 185, plus 205. I don't know anybody going with like a minus 300 Abus Magomedov that hasn't fought since December of 2020. We have a look at the fan vote. I expect everybody to go with Magomedov, Matt. I'm going to say over under 80% Magomedov.
I was thinking 80%, I'll say over.
And it is over. 1,010 total votes, 86% Magomedov, 56% by decision, 31% by submission. For the 14% that have Stoltzfus, 77% by decision. He also has that, slam knockout win on Dana White's Contender Series that got him into the UFC over Joe Pyfer, who's all the hotness right now. I have Abus Magomedov to win this fight coming up this weekend, but there's too many red flags, the inactivity, and so on and so forth, for me to just consider it a pop and popcorn fight and just stay away from it, because a guy that hasn't fought in that long as an almost minus 300 favorite seems a little bit silly. So I do have Magomedov, love the striking, love it in this matchup, but I'm staying away from this one this weekend.
I agree with you that, yes, there are some red flags around this matchup, but they're giving Magomedov a pretty good debut fight, if we're being completely honest. Like, for Dustin, he's not the most heavy-handed of strikers, or he hasn't shown that at the UFC level. He's a good grappler, but he's not like a Rodolfo Vieira or like a Jacare Souza or Andrea Muniz. Like, he's good, but not great in that one area, so I think it's going to be really hard for Dustin to finish Magomedov in this matchup, and for that reason, I do like Magomedov.
Both of us going with Abus Magomedov, the red flags of the layoff. We'll see how that plays out. Coming up this weekend, let us know in the comments section on these fights who you have, because we got a big time main card coming up with, hey, another middleweight contest in the co-main event. Whittaker taking on Vettori, Sittlegan versus Tai Tuivasa in the main event. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.